I was a secret admirer of Willow for 7 years before we finally got together. But in just an instant, I let go of my obsession with her. The last time we had a breakup, she said, don't love someone so stubbornly, like a creepily possessive lover. It's really scary. You know there are plenty of fish in the sea. Why fixate on just me? Go out with a few more girls, will you? I nodded and said, all right, I'll give it a try. After the breakup, Willow was overjoyed during the first month. She never once mentioned me. In the second month, she began to seem a little unsettled. By the third month, she was pitifully standing below my apartment, begging me to get back together, but I remained unmoved. I even brought Anna to the floor-to-ceiling window and stood there with her in my arms. Chapter 01. When Willow batted her eyes for the third time at that handsome guy who had women on both arms, I looked at those eyes that had mesmerized me throughout my entire student life, and suddenly I just let go of the obsession in my heart. She wasn't hard to get at all. It just depended on the person. I was the insignificant one. George, Willow propped her chin on one hand, drumming her fingers lightly on her cheek as she spoke casually. To be honest, the day I agreed to your confession, it wasn't because I actually fell for you. It's just that you were always so nice to me. I started to waver, thinking maybe it wouldn't be so bad to be with you. But I tried, and it still doesn't work. She pressed her lips together, her voice gentle. I can't bring myself to like you. The time I kissed you when I was drunk was an accident. I rubbed my brow and said, Willow, if you've got something to say, just say it. She blinked at me and smiled brightly. I've always seen you as an older brother. So let's just go back to being good friends, okay? I looked right at her, tugging at the corners of my mouth. Let's just get through today first. Is that okay? Today is a bit special, but Willow probably doesn't remember that at all. She frowned slightly, seeming a bit reluctant. All right, then. When I came back from the restroom, Willow was exchanging WeChat details with that handsome guy. At least she remembered she still had a boyfriend at the moment. Even though their glances at each other practically sparked, they still held back from crossing the line. But the rest of the time, her mind was obviously elsewhere. The WeChat notification tone sounded every few seconds, and she would reply right away. I recalled our own chat logs over the years. There were so few. A whole page of green text messages mine, with tiny patches of white text hers. Back when I was chasing her, she was always distant and disinterested. If I reached out to her, she almost never answered unless she needed something. Even after we got together, she barely replied to my messages. The longest stretch was a month before she remembered to respond. It turns out the difference between liking someone and not liking someone is this obvious. Just after midnight, Willow couldn't wait to stand up and say, it's already late. I'm going home. I stood up with her and said, hold on a sec. Our friends paused curiously. I walked up to Willow and looked at her calmly. Willow. From this day onward, I won't wait for you anymore. She looked as though she had just heard something very funny. Willow covered her mouth and laughed softly, saying, I don't recall ever asking you to wait for me. Then she turned to her girlfriends and said, isn't that right? Chapter 02. Indeed, she never said I had to wait for her. I was the one always following behind her. Whenever she was in a relationship, I stayed away. Whenever she broke up and needed me, I was always there. Even one of her close friends couldn't stand it anymore and said to me, George, even a backup wouldn't be as self-deprecating as you are. Is it worth it? She's just using you for fun, enjoying the feeling of being chased. But I never thought about giving up. So now, when I seriously say I'm not waiting for her anymore, nobody believes me. Willow tilted her head slightly and said, George, she called me the way she used to when we were just good friends. She said, you should have done this a long time ago. Loving someone so stubbornly is scary, you know. When Willow smiles, her eyes shine like blossoming peach flowers in spring. In that moment, I suddenly understood. If genuine feelings come out too easily, they aren't genuine feelings. She said, George, you're handsome and wealthy. Honestly, you should go date a few more girls. Otherwise, it's such a waste. I thought about it, then nodded and replied with a smile, all right, I'll give it a try. Maybe she didn't expect me to agree so readily. She froze for a moment, then pursed her lips in a smile, all right, go for it. Try a few. Very soon, Willow had a new boyfriend. They were all over each other, moving at lightning speed. By the third day, they had already moved in together. My buddies dragged me out for a drink and tried to comfort me. George, Willow is being cruel. She had her next guy lined up in advance. If you're upset, just say so. Don't bottle it in. They won't last long. After they break up, she'll realize you're still the better choice. But this time I won't get back with her. One friend laughed, don't kid around, George. You can't do that. Another chimed in, yeah, you don't have to pretend around us. I said nothing. They stared at me with pity and sympathy. I smiled and didn't argue further. On my day off, I went to see Willow. Her new boyfriend opened the door. He was shirtless, looking puzzled. Who are you looking for? I replied, is Willow here? I came to pick up some things. He asked, what do you need? I said, a big orange cat-shaped container. He nodded, all right, I'll help you look. But in the next second, a woman's voice sounded. I threw that out ages ago. It was Willow. I hadn't noticed when she came downstairs. Probably just woke up. She was wearing a nightgown, her eyes still somewhat hazy. The man walked over and wrapped an arm around her affectionately, kissing her on the cheek. Willow let out a soft murmur and pushed him away a couple of times. Then she glanced at me and asked, what's with you trying to take back something you already gave me? I asked, where did you throw it? I'll go look. Willow replied, how am I supposed to remember that? Maybe it got knocked over and shattered. If you absolutely want it, I can pay you back for it. I looked at them. The guy tightened his hold on her like he was declaring ownership. Willow looked perfectly fine with it. I frowned, forget it. It wasn't worth much anyway. I turned and started to walk away. George, Willow suddenly spoke up. My steps slowed a little, but I didn't stop, nor did I turn around. During the first month after the breakup, my good buddy David insisted I meet some beautiful women to help me get over Willow. He introduced me to 2 girls, but neither went anywhere. It left me a bit frustrated and annoyed. By the second month, David invited me out to a gathering with some high school friends at a nightclub. We drank a lot. David, in his drunken stupor, insisted on taking a picture of me and posting it online. He wrote, George, this high-quality mail on limited-time sale. First come, first served. Only one available. No returns or exchanges. Ladies, feel free to team up. After posting, he tossed his phone aside and kept drinking with me, completely unaware his WeChat was blowing up. Then the crowd around us suddenly started buzzing with excitement. David slapped my shoulder hard and said, holy crap, who's that woman? How am I lucky enough to see such a stunning beauty? Confused, I looked over. Amid the dazzling light stood a tall, curvy woman in a black Hepburn-style dress, walking toward us with long strides. Though I couldn't see her face clearly, her figure alone was eye-catching. David said, that's Anna. I'm not mistaken, right? Anna, our high school goddess. I couldn't help but snort. Anna? A good girl like her wouldn't step foot in a nightclub. You're seeing things. I shook my head and raised a glass for another drink. But then someone grabbed my arm. George, I was tipsy and slow to react, staring dumbly at that hand. Her fingers were slender, like graceful willow branches. Her skin was smooth and luminous, a sensual kind of beauty. My gaze drifted upward until it settled on her exquisite face. Stunned, I asked, Anna, is that really you? She frowned slightly, come with me. She looked at me so seriously, her eyes captivating enough to make me forget to refuse. Before I knew it, she had pulled me into a deserted hallway. I wobbled, trying to regain my balance, and then she leaned in. George, she said, hooking her arms around my neck. Before I could react, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed me. She asked, if you're willing to consider total strangers, then could you maybe give me a chance? How about trying it out with me? Chapter 03. Maybe it was the alcohol messing with my head, or maybe the sweetness of the kiss made me lose my mind. My thoughts were a chaotic mess, tangled up before turning completely blank until the kiss finally ended. Anna was nestled in my arms. I said, but, she asked, but what? I hesitated, you and Willow, weren't you best friends before? Anna looked up at me, tilting her head slightly, so what? Is that illegal? I replied, of course not. She asked again, so are you willing or not? I rubbed my temples. Inside, I thought we've already kissed. What's there to be unwilling about? Anna suddenly laughed. George, she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, gazing at me with a soft voice, we know each other inside out. That's better than being with a total stranger, right? My mind was burning hot, and somehow what she said made perfect sense. Rather than dealing with a completely unfamiliar woman, why not choose Anna? She was gorgeous, and I knew her well. No matter how I looked at it, I wasn't losing anything. I nodded, then let's give it a try. Anna's smile deepened. She rose on her tiptoes and kissed me again. She whispered, I'll make sure you won't regret it. Somehow, news of my 2 failed blind dates reached Willow. One night over drinks, a friend casually mentioned, I saw George with his girlfriend last time when I was out eating. Another friend corrected, what girlfriend? They just had 2 meals together and broke up. The first one shrugged, makes sense. George only likes our Willow. He wouldn't seriously date anyone else. Willow sipped the last of her wine and said in a light tone, he's just stubborn. You guys have known him long enough. Her friend sighed, but honestly, Willow, it's weird. George hasn't contacted you at all in the past month or 2. Willow scoffed, he always does this whenever I'm dating someone. He acts like he's dead, completely silent. She put down her glass, but deep inside, she felt oddly irritated. It had been over a week since her breakup, yet there was still no word from George. Last night at 3 a.m., she had even deliberately posted a status saying she was feeling down and wanted to drink. George didn't comment, didn't text her. A friend suggested, Willow, why don't you give him an excuse to come? Ask him to pay the bill or something? Willow rolled her eyes, why would I call him? He's a total buzzkill. Yet after a pause, she changed her tone, fine, bring him over. I do want to ask him something. What kind of taste does he have? He'll go for just about any woman now. He must be starving. Her friend laughed and dialed his number. The first call was declined. The second call was also declined. Her friend frowned. At this hour, could he be on a date? Willow's expression suddenly changed. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She picked up her own phone and dialed a number. It wasn't until the call started ringing that she realized at some point she had memorized George's number by heart. The phone rang for a long time. Just as she was about to hang up in frustration, the call finally connected. A deep male voice answered, breathless, hello, who is this? There was the sound of heavy breathing on the other end and faintly, the soft murmur of a woman. It was hard not to imagine something. Willow's expression changed instantly. She bit her lip. George, what are you doing? I shot Anna a look and whispered, let go. Anna pouted defiantly, clinging on to me like she had no intention of letting go. It was our 4th date. The once cool, untouchable school goddess seemed to have fallen off her pedestal. I sighed and ignored her, unlocking the hotel room door with my fingerprint. The electronic lock beeped loud enough for Willow to hear. Maybe I had imagined it, but when she spoke again, her voice had regained its usual detached tone, you just got home. I replied, yeah. I stepped inside. Anna followed closely behind, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear. I grabbed a pair of slippers for her and asked, it's late. What do you need? Willow scoffed, oh, so now you realize it's late. What, you can stay out this long even with those ugly blind dates of yours? I asked again, do you need something? I was already bored with this conversation, so I tried to change the subject. But for some reason, Willow got angry. She snapped, what would I possibly need from you? I just wanted to check if you were dumb enough to let some woman scam you out of money. Then she hung up. I stared at my phone for a moment before chuckling to myself. Maybe to Willow, spending money on any woman besides her was considered being scammed. But it didn't matter anymore. Like David always said, 7 years had passed. Everyone else had moved on. Even Willow had never once brought up the past. So why should I keep myself stuck in place? It was time to move forward. I set my phone down and handed Anna the slippers, but she didn't take them. I looked at her, surprised. Anna leaned against the door, her gaze lowered, the smile on her lips faint. After a long moment, she slowly lifted her eyes and looked at me seriously. She said, George, I don't wear things that have been used by someone else. Chapter 04. I finally understood her little quirk and couldn't help but laugh. I said, what are you thinking? The slippers are brand new. No one's worn them before. After saying that, I turned toward the kitchen. What do you want to drink? She replied, I'll have whatever you're having. Anna changed into the slippers and walked into the room. Then her eyes fell on the photo wall. Most of the pictures were group shots of old classmates and friends, and in more than half of them, Willow and I were standing together. I came out with the boiled water and saw Anna standing in front of the pictures. I said, perfect timing. Help me take down this photo wall. She asked, why? I smiled, I want to put up some new pictures. Most of these photos were from high school. Back then, Willow had already started dressing up, radiating a beauty that seemed beyond her years. Meanwhile, I was unkempt and clueless, looking like an awkward fool. Anna didn't say much. She simply started taking the photos down one by one, but she left one untouched. I asked, why not take this one down? Curious, I stepped forward to take a closer look. Then I realized it was the only photo without Willow. Instead, Anna had unintentionally walked through the frame. It was a photo from our high school days, capturing a moment we had never noticed before. In the picture, Anna was wearing a white short-sleeved school uniform and a navy blue pleated skirt. She was passing by in a hurry. The wind lifted her hair, revealing a bright, youthful face, clean, pure, effortlessly beautiful. That was her 7 years ago. And now, 7 years later, she stood right in front of me. I gently pushed her toward the photo and said, I need to take a good look to see how much you've changed in 7 years. Anna stood still, completely cooperative. I examined her closely. Your nose seems a little sharper. Your features are even more defined, more stunning, and your figure. I smirked, definitely Kavya, more womanly. Before I could finish, Anna suddenly lifted her head and kissed me. She whispered, George. Her arms wrapped around my neck as she gazed up at me, a small smile playing on her lips. Then she kissed me again, George. We held each other tightly, our kiss deepening. But in the next second, I tasted something slightly salty. A single tear slipped from the corner of Anna's eye. I loosened my hold on her and asked, Anna, what's wrong? But she simply shook her head and raised her hand, gently covering my eyes. She said, don't look at me, George. I asked, why? She said, if you keep looking at me, I'm afraid you won't let me leave tonight. She said it with a playful smile, but her eyes held a sorrow so fragile it seemed ready to shatter. Anna buried her head against my chest, her arms wrapped tightly around me as if she were afraid of losing me. I didn't understand why she suddenly felt this way, but in that moment, seeing her sadness, I felt an unfamiliar ache in my heart. She was the one crying, but my own eyes stung with an inexplicable soreness. I cupped her face in my hands, carefully wiping away the tear at the corner of her eye. Concerned, I asked, Anna, why are you sad? She simply shook her head and said, George, I'm just really happy. Anna smiled again. This time, her smile finally reached her eyes. She said, being with you, you have no idea how happy I am. Chapter 5. After sending Anna off that day, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I dug out my old photo album from school and flipped through it page by page. The reason why I've always maintained such a close bond with Willow, Sophia, David, and my other high school friends was above all because of one thing. The year I started high school, the city where our alma mater was located experienced a devastating earthquake. Many of our former classmates lost their lives in that disaster. I too was trapped under the rubble, severely injured. Willow held my hand and stayed with me for 2 whole days and nights until the rescue team finally pulled me out. She was exhausted, but she still ran alongside the stretcher all the way to the temporary hospital. When I woke up, she had fallen asleep beside my bed. But the moment I moved, she opened her eyes. She looked at me, her face full of exhaustion, but she smiled so beautifully and said, George, if you didn't wake up soon, I would have had no choice but to scold you. Those were the most beautiful eyes I had ever seen in my life. How could I not fall for her? But the fleeting love of youth was never enough to keep me waiting any longer. She wasn't the wrong one. I was the one who had blurred the line between friendship and love. She was a wonderful, kind person. She just didn't love me. She didn't love me so much that the last day of our relationship happened to be the same day she held my hand in that rubble. And yet she had long forgotten about it. A few days later, in the afternoon, I suddenly received a message from Willow. She said, I found it. You can come and get it. I asked, what is it? Willow sent a photo. It was the orange cat-shaped storage jar I had given her while we were dating. In the picture, the chubby orange cat lay lazily, stuffed full, looking silly, reminding me a little of myself back in school. I couldn't help but laugh, but Willow had always been into those rich playboys, the kind who knew how to have fun and effortlessly charm girls. I had no idea where I got the courage all these years to pursue her so persistently, waiting for her with unwavering devotion. So I replied, I don't want it anymore. After thinking for a moment, I added, if it's in your way, just throw it away. Willow replied almost instantly, then I'll throw it away. I didn't respond because at that moment, Anna's voice call popped up. She said, George, let's go have dinner later. I replied, sure. What do you feel like eating? She said, whatever you want to eat is what I want to eat. I was speechless. No way. You have to pick this time. She thought for a moment and said, then let's have roast suckling pig. I sighed, isn't that still something I like to eat? She huffed, what? Am I not allowed to like what you like? I sighed again, if I keep eating like this, I'm going to gain weight. She chuckled, so what? You were so sturdy in high school. You looked super reliable. I was speechless again. Anna laughed happily on the other end of the call. She said, George, see you tonight. But that night, I stood her up. Just before getting off work, our mutual friend Sophia suddenly called, George, come to People's Hospital right now. I asked, what happened? She said, yesterday was Martin's birthday. His mom was feeling down, had a few drinks, and she tried to end her life. I stood there, frozen. Tears instantly streamed down my face. Martin was a year ahead of me. We had known each other since kindergarten, closer than brothers. But on the day of the earthquake, he didn't make it out. Sophia's voice brought me back. George, are you listening? I wiped my face hastily and said, I got it. I'm coming now. I flagged down a cab and rushed to the hospital. By the time I arrived, Willow and the others were already there. Frantic, I ran over and asked, how is Martin's mom? Sophia answered, they managed to save her in time. She's going to be okay. Don't worry. I let out a deep breath and finally sank into a chair. Willow sat nearby. She never looked at me or spoke to me, and I did the same. By the time Martin's mother was wheeled out of surgery, the sky was already pitch black. Only then did I remember Anna had asked me to have dinner after work. I hurriedly pulled out my phone. Several missed calls, all from Anna. I quickly dialed back. She picked up almost immediately. George, where are you? I said, I'm at the hospital. Sorry, Anna. I forgot to tell you. She asked, are you okay? Are you sick? I replied, no, it's not me. It's a friend's mother. Before I could finish, Willow suddenly walked over. She said, George. Martin's mom is awake. Let's go see her. Without thinking, I answered, I'll be right there. Willow smiled and casually reached for my arm. Hurry up. We're all waiting for you. I instantly pulled my arm away. Willow's brows furrowed slightly, and the smile on her lips slowly faded. On the other end of the phone call, at some point, Anna had already hung up. Chapter 6. A deep sense of unease took root in my heart, growing like wild grass. For some reason, my mind suddenly flashed back to that night at my place, the way Anna had looked at me, the fragments of emotion in her eyes. An unbearable sorrow crept over me, but just then, Sophia came over and called out, George, Auntie wants to see you. I had no choice but to suppress the tide of emotion surging inside me and say, I'm coming. Martin and I had grown up together. I was practically a regular at his house. His mother had always treated me like half a son. Ever since Martin was gone, every time she saw me, she would hold my hand and talk to me for a long time. Lying weakly in bed, Martin's mother called out, George. Her gaze swept over everyone in the room before settling on my face, but it felt like she was looking past me, searching for Martin's shadow. She said, if Martin were still here, he'd be working like you by now. I clenched my teeth, trying my best to hold back my emotions. Auntie, I started, but she interrupted me. You're all at the age to settle down now, she continued, her voice choking up as tears welled up in her eyes. When are you and Willow getting married? Auntie will prepare a big red envelope for you. I was about to shake my head when Willow suddenly wrapped her arm around mine. She said, Auntie, when George and I get married, you'll be the first to know. She turned to me and asked, isn't that right, George? I wanted to shake my head, but Martin's mother had already smiled, visibly relieved. That's wonderful. Truly wonderful, she said. Martin used to tell me all the time that when you got married, he wanted to give a speech at your wedding. He wanted to be your best man. When Martin was little, you were his only friend. He always treated you like a younger brother and looked out for you. He used to say you were too stubborn, too fixated on things, and he worried one day you'd suffer for it. Willow, you have to keep an eye on him. Don't let anything happen to him, or Martin will be worried sick, watching from above. Willow nodded. Don't worry, Auntie. I'll take care of him. She paused before adding softly, even if something happens to George, I'll always be by his side. Willow clung tightly to my arm. I knew she was only trying to make Martin's mother feel better, but at that moment, her act felt too real. A sharp, aching pain filled my chest, not for Willow, but for the most precious, most sincere friendship of my life. If only Martin were still alive, he would never have let me be such a fool, suffering in silence. I turned down Willow's invitation to grab something to eat. While I stood by the roadside waiting for a cab, she told me she had called 1-2 and would wait with me. She said, don't overthink it. I'm just worried that you haven't eaten so late. No one's home to make you soup anymore, you know. I glanced at her and spoke softly, Willow. She stood in the deep night, her eyes still as gentle as the evening breeze. I said, I have a girlfriend waiting for me. You don't need to worry. Willow's smile slowly formed, deliberate and measured. Since when? Another blind date? She scoffed. The dating market is full of leftover women. How many of them are actually decent? You really? I shook my head, cutting her off. No, not a blind date. She's an old classmate, someone I've known for a long time. Willow's smile froze for a moment. Then she forced a light-hearted expression. George, you're serious? I replied, yeah. She asked, great. When's the wedding? I looked at her, but I could no longer see the Willow from 7 years ago. I said, my cab is here, Willow. I'm leaving. I gave her a small wave and stepped off the curb, walking toward the taxi. George, I thought I heard her call my name, but I didn't turn back. In the wind of the night, her voice seemed to scatter and disappear. Chapter 7. When I arrived downstairs at Anna's place, I called her. Anna, I'm downstairs. She came down quickly, but she looked terrible. She stumbled and nearly fell. I rushed to catch her, and only then did I catch the strong scent of alcohol on her. I frowned. Why did you drink so much? Anna didn't answer. She just looked up at me, her gaze fixed and unwavering. Anna, I called her name. She suddenly smiled and threw herself into my arms, holding me tightly. I thought you wouldn't come for me anymore, she murmured, her voice trembling as she looked straight into my eyes. George, kiss me, okay? The light in her eyes was shattered, more heartbreaking than the way she had looked at me that night. I couldn't refuse her, and I didn't. Just kiss her once. Hidden in the shadows beneath the trees, our kisses deepened. She melted in my arms, breathless, soft as water. Anna, I whispered. Her breath was uneven, burning, tangled with mine. She lifted her eyes to me. I said, marry me. Okay, she answered, her eyes turning red, her voice trembling as she choked out, this time, I finally didn't miss you. I was so overjoyed that I forgot to ask her what she meant by this time. The next morning, Anna and I went to register our marriage. That same day, she moved into my place as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But Anna had been too well known back in school, and it had only been 3 months since my breakup with Willow. If we announced our marriage now, it would surely cause a huge stir. So we agreed to keep it private for now, to give everyone some time to adjust, to figure out how to break the news to our families and closest friends. I told Anna everything that had happened at the hospital, and I sincerely apologized. Anna had lived through that earthquake too. She understood. She said, I knew him, and I know how close you two were. It was the right thing to do, going to see his mother. I shouldn't have hung up on you that night. Anna was never the type to be unreasonable. In fact, she was good at self-reflection. She looked at me and said, I'm sorry, George. But when I heard her call your name that night, she didn't finish the sentence, but I knew what she was thinking. Everyone who had known us over the years knew how I had loved Willow, how stubbornly, how persistently. It was natural for Anna to mind her existence. I pulled her into my arms and held her gently. Anna, I said, I'm a stubborn person. When I love someone, I love them with everything I have. But when I stop loving, not even 10 oxen could drag me back. Do you understand? She looked up at me and asked, then right now, do you love me? I let out a helpless sigh and pinched her nose. I proposed to you. We already got our marriage certificate. Do you really think I don't love you? Chapter 8. I had never seen Anna this happy before. Back in school, she was always quiet, composed, unhurried. People used to talk about her, saying she was like the lotus described in poetry, admired from a distance, never to be touched. But now, even Anna had been pulled into the dust and chaos of the world, lost in desire, unable to free herself. And I loved her like this. I loved the way her fingers intertwined with mine, how we sank into passion together. I loved the way desire overtook her, making her lose control. I loved hearing her voice, soft and breathless, calling my name again and again in the height of pleasure. I loved that all of it, all of her, was because of me, only me. I whispered, "Does it hurt?" I kissed her forehead. It was the first time for both of us. At the start, it wasn't just her, it hurt for me too. She shook her head and murmured, "I want some water." I got up to fetch her a glass. She leaned against me as she drank, nestled in my arms. By the time she finished, somehow we started kissing again. But then my phone, tossed aside on the carpet, started ringing. I paused. Anna looped her arms around my neck and whispered, "Ignore it. Probably just a spam call." But the phone wouldn't stop. It kept ringing, relentless. With a sigh, I moved to get up, but Anna held onto my arm, refusing to let me go. The phone screen, glowing faintly in the dark, flashed with a name, Willow. "I'll just turn it off," I said. Anna didn't reply. She let out a small scoff. Her jealousy was barely concealed. "Let her call," I said. The ringing stopped for a moment, then a new message popped up on the lock screen. "George, I'm downstairs." I froze. Anna's lips pressed into a tight line. Then suddenly she stood up and pulled me toward the floor-to-ceiling window. Wrapping her arms around my neck, she kissed me again, this time deliberately, possessively. She whispered against my lips, "Look how pitiful she is, George. Do you want to go down and see her?" Our apartment was high up. From here, all I could see was a blurry figure, indistinct, barely recognizable. I chuckled, glancing at the stubborn woman beside me. No matter how I looked at it, she was unmistakably competing with Willow. I scratched my head. It's the middle of the night. If she just stands there, it'll disturb the neighbors. Maybe I should go down for a moment. Before I could even finish speaking, Anna suddenly clung to me like a koala. I got what she meant. Long story short, short story long, if you know, you know. It's basically that thing we all know about. The glass fogged over with the marks we left behind. The night was deep, but it was far, far from over. Chapter 9. After that night, Willow never called again. Word had it that she was seeing someone new. Her new boyfriend was Makoto, the eldest son of the Ito family. Willow was infatuated with him, glued to his side every day. It was the first time she had ever taken a relationship so seriously. Rumor even had it that Makoto had thrown a grand engagement ceremony for her. The news spread like wildfire. Friends kept messaging and calling me about it. Even Sophia reached out and said, "George, Willow might be getting engaged to Makoto." I replied, "She's at the age to settle down. It's good for her to find stability." As I spoke, I was also replying to Anna's messages. Tonight, she was taking me to meet a few elders from the Sue family for dinner. Her parents were still abroad and couldn't return just yet, so we'd meet them a little later. But they had already sent their blessings. Even though we hadn't announced our marriage publicly, we had informed Anna's family elders, and on my side, I was preparing to introduce Anna to my parents as well. Sophia sounded surprised. "George, do you really not care, or are you just pretending to be indifferent?" I asked. "If I told you I genuinely don't care anymore, would you believe me?" Sophia was silent for a moment before finally saying, "George, I don't know why, but I have this feeling that Willow is going to regret this someday. She always acted like you didn't matter to her, like she could take or leave you, but she actually relied on you a lot. It's funny how as bystanders, we can always see things clearly when it comes to other people's relationships, but when it's our own, we can never seem to think rationally. Just like I once did, just like Willow does now, and just like Sophia will in the future when she finally leaves Louise, the boyfriend she's been with for 7 years, and chooses the childhood crush she never got over. She'll never admit it, but deep down, she'll know that she regretted it the moment she let go." The engagement venue was decorated like a dream, lavish and grand. Willow and her friends arrived early. Makeup artists worked meticulously, ensuring they looked stunning for the event. As the evening progressed, Willow noticed Sophia entering the banquet hall. She turned to her and asked, displeased, "Did you call George?" Sophia didn't deny it. She said, "Don't worry. He won't come and cause a scene." But instead of looking relieved, Willow's face darkened even more. She frowned and said, "I wasn't worried about that." Sophia chuckled. "Of course you weren't, but you are worried that he won't come at all." That single sentence shattered the last of Willow's defenses. Her face turned crimson, and in a sudden fit of anger, she flung the wine glass in her hand to the floor. The room fell silent in an instant. The music, the laughter, all came to an abrupt halt. All eyes turned toward her in shock. Willow herself wasn't even sure what she was feeling at that moment. There was the humiliation of being exposed, but more than that, there was a deep, unshakable unease. In the end, she had no choice but to admit it. Sophia was right. She wasn't afraid of George coming to ruin things. She was afraid that he wouldn't come at all. That night, when George told her he had a girlfriend, she hadn't believed him. But in secret, she had gone to ask David, George's closest friend. She never got a direct answer. All he said was, "What's the rush? You two have known each other for years. If George really gets married, he'll send you an invitation." That uneasiness had been gnawing at her ever since. This time, something was different. Unlike all the times before when she had teased him, told him to go date more people, for the first time, he actually did. Not just for show, he had really gone and fallen for someone else. Just the thought of it made Willow's chest tighten painfully. Her friends still joked about George, saying, "For once, George finally stood his ground." But Willow, all you have to do is apologize and act cute, and he'll definitely forgive you. I bet you two will still end up getting married in the end. Hey, what did your ex say back when you broke up? Something about you always calling him George by mistake, Willow. Admit it. You actually like George, don't you? Haven't you noticed you're most yourself, most at ease when you're with him? Sophia watched it all unfold and finally sighed. Willow, if you go to George now, it's still not too late. Before she could finish her sentence, someone suddenly rushed in from outside. Guess who I just saw? Willow's head snapped up. She had no idea how desperate she looked at that moment, like a drowning person grasping at the last straw. Chapter 10. The person who had just entered said, "It was George. I almost didn't recognize him just now. It's only been a month or two, but he's completely changed his style. Even the way he walks is different. He looks so confident now." Willow quickly regained her usual high-end, mighty demeanor, faking indifference. She scoffed, "Then why didn't you call him over? This is one of the most important moments of my life. He has to be here." The friend replied, "I did call him, but George said he's just here for dinner." Willow rolled her eyes. What a coincidence. Who didn't know about her engagement to Makoto tonight? Of all the restaurants in the city, why did George just happen to come to this one? How had she never noticed before how fake he could be, so pretentious? Clearly, he had heard about her engagement and couldn't hold back anymore, yet he still wanted to put on an act. Willow was furious. Thanks to George, she had been on edge these past few weeks, unable to sleep properly, unable to relax. If that was the case, she figured it was only fair to get back at him tonight. Then she would refuse to marry Makoto. She would walk away with George, just like she had told Martin's mother that day. They would get married. She would stay by his side forever. Otherwise, if Martin found out from heaven, he'd definitely be restless all night. She was superstitious. Just thinking about it made her shudder a little. Might as well marry George then. Didn't seem like such a bad idea. In fact, deep down, she realized she was kind of looking forward to it. Willow's mood suddenly lifted. She said nonchalantly, "Forget it. If George doesn't want to come, then whatever. I don't care." Then she glanced at her phone and said, "I'm stepping out for some fresh air." She left the banquet hall, but she wasn't really looking for fresh air. She wandered aimlessly, glancing around until she stopped dead in her tracks under the soft glow of the evening lights. A girl in an apple-green dress ran down the steps, then threw herself into a man's arms. Willow heard the girl's clear, sweet voice. "George, are you ready?" The man holding her lowered his head and kissed her for a long moment before murmuring nervously, "To be honest, Anna, I'm actually a little nervous." The woman gave him a gentle smile and looped her arm through his. "Don't be nervous. Our George is so amazing. They're definitely going to love you." The man hesitated. "Really? You think they'll like me?" She nodded firmly. Of course. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. Well, if my leader has that much faith in me, I definitely won't let you down. Anna laughed. Go for it. I believe in you. Willow watched as the two of them walked away, still whispering to each other, still lost in their own world. She just stood there, dazed, as memories from years ago flooded back. That year, Anna had been injured in the earthquake too. She had spent a long time recovering before she could return to school. Willow had once gone to see her. What had she said to Anna back then? Willow thought for a long, long time. Slowly, the memory surfaced. She had told Anna that George liked her and that she liked George. She had also told Anna that she had always known that Anna liked George too. She had known that on the day of the earthquake, Anna had planned to confess her feelings to him because once when she visited Anna's house, she had accidentally seen an unfinished diary entry. And in the end, she had said to Anna, if George knew that when he was trapped under the rubble, it was you who stayed with him for 2 whole days and nights, he would definitely be grateful to you. And if you told him you liked him, how could he possibly reject a girl's feelings? But Anna, you're a proud person. You wouldn't want the person you love to be with you just out of gratitude, would you? Anna had been silent for a long time, and in the end, all she had said was, I wish you both happiness. Chapter 11. She still remembered watching Anna turn away that day, her lonely, desolate figure fading into the distance. For the first time, she had felt the thrill of victory. They had once been close friends, but no one knew how many times deep inside she had envied Anna so selfishly. She had taken George for herself, yet she had never planned to truly be happy with him. In that moment, everything suddenly became clear. All these years, hurting George again and again, had it all been because she knew she had done something wrong from the very beginning? The person George had fallen for was the one who had held his hand in the rubble, not her, not Willow. She was just the thief who had stolen the fruit Anna had left behind when her family took her away to heal. But stolen things always have to be returned. After all this time, George had still found his way back to Anna. Willow went home. She rummaged through the storage room, searching through the mess for a long time until she finally found it. The orange cat-shaped storage jar George had once given her. That last time they broke up, George had only come looking for her once, just to take this back. She had told him she had thrown it away, but she hadn't. She had kept every single gift George had ever given her. Compared to all the jewelry and luxury she had never understood why this one small, ordinary object mattered so much. Even after they separated, she had taken it out and looked at it many times, but she had never found anything special about it. Yet this time, as she ran her fingers along the inside of the jar, she felt something. A tiny wishing bottle. She opened it and inside was a small, rolled-up piece of paper. She held it in her trembling hands, barely daring to breathe. Slowly, she unrolled it. There were just 2 lines of handwriting. Forgiveness ticket. Since Willow loves to break up for no reason, this ticket guarantees that George will unconditionally forgive Willow once. Valid within 3 days of a breakup. Willow stared at that tiny piece of paper, at the handwriting she knew so well, as if it were carved into her soul. Her hands started to shake. A sharp, piercing pain spread through her chest. A hot tear fell onto the note, blurring the ink, dissolving the words until they faded into nothing. Chapter 12. On the day Anna and I got married, many of our old friends and classmates came to the wedding, but Willow didn't. She sent her gift and red envelope through Sophia. After the wedding, when I was unwrapping the presents, I finally saw it, the orange cat-shaped storage jar. Inside was nothing but an old glass bottle. As I opened it, Anna came over. She asked, "What are you looking at?" "A gift," I replied. "From who?" she asked. "Willow," I said. Anna's expression remained unchanged, but she sat down next to me and didn't move. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Do you want to open it together?" Anna shot me a look, her lips pouting. "It's our wedding night, and you want your wife to help you open a gift from your ex?" I pulled her close and kissed her gently. Being honest about everything means having nothing to hide. Anna still seemed a little jealous, then said, "Okay, I'll open it." She took the bottle from my hands, opened it, and pulled out a rolled-up piece of paper. As the paper unfolded, familiar handwriting appeared. "George, do you know why I could never remember that date? Because the one who held your hand in the rubble and never let go was Anna. I'm sorry, George. Wishing you both happiness forever." I froze and turned to look at the woman beside me, stunned. Anna's eyes were already red, tears streaming down her face. "George," she called my name, her voice trembling. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly, and suddenly I understood. I understood why that night at my house, she had looked so heartbroken while flipping through our old high school photos. I understood why the night I came back from the hospital to find her, she had been drinking so much. Why she had said, "This time, I finally didn't miss you." I asked, "Why didn't you tell me, Anna? Why didn't you say anything?" She sobbed uncontrollably. "Because I didn't want you to be with me out of gratitude. Because back then, the whole world knew George was in love with Willow, head over heels in love." Chapter 13. After high school, Anna went abroad for university. She deliberately distanced herself from everything and everyone from the past. But after returning to the country, she couldn't help but ask about George just once. The answer she received was the same as 7 years ago, so she stayed silent, never reaching out until she saw David's tweet, until she heard about George's blind dates. Only then did she finally break the torment of the past years. Overwhelmed, she went looking for him. The bravest decision of her life was that night when she finally worked up the courage to find George. If she had known earlier that Willow had only ever treated him like a toy, stringing him along, she would have come back for him sooner. But in the end, it wasn't too late. People who are meant to be together will always find their way back to each other. Anna's voice trembled. "George, if Willow hadn't said it, I might never have told you." George gently wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, but Anna grabbed his hand and pressed it to her cheek, refusing to let go. She whispered, word by word, "Because I wanted you to love me only because you love me, not because you had to love me." George kissed her deeply, fiercely. "Everyone calls me a fool, but you are the real fool," she said, smiling through her tears. "That's fine. Foolish people are blessed. Only fools are truly happy." Anna didn't care what anyone else thought. This was who she was, selfish and possessive. She wanted George's love, all of it, pure, undiluted, untouched by anything else, just like the way she loved him. On their wedding night, George was exhausted. Anna demanded everything from him, taking and taking until he was utterly drained. Only when he was completely spent did she finally smile in satisfaction. "There now, I've received all of your love," she said. When she went to take a shower, George was already fast asleep. Under the soft moonlight, she gazed at him for a long time. Even in his sleep, his brows were slightly furrowed. She reached out and gently smoothed them. In that moment, George mumbled something in his sleep. "Anna, let's take it slow, okay? Save some for later." Anna had little experience in love, but even she knew that if George was willing to give so much, he must truly love her. Maybe not as much as she loved him, not yet, but that was okay. They had a lifetime ahead of them, and one day, she knew she would have all of George's love. Love is a long journey, and for today, she was already more than content.